had no idea what I was getting myself into. The clinic I'd been referred to was supposed to be one of the best. Dr. Caleb Roscoe, a name I'd never heard of before, came highly recommended. He was known for being a leading figure in medical research, offering groundbreaking procedures that promised to cure everything from chronic pain to depression. A miracle worker, they said. A pioneer. I was skeptical, but I was desperate. My body had been failing me for years, and I tried everything to no avail. So when my primary care doctor suggested I see Dr. Roscoe, I didn't question it. If there was a chance, even the smallest one, that he could help me, I would take it. When I arrived at his office, everything seemed sterile. Too sterile. The waiting room was quiet, almost unnervingly so. The receptionist, a pale woman with hollow eyes, greeted me politely but didn't seem to care much about making small talk. She handed me a clipboard with forms to sign. It was all routine paperwork, standard medical waivers, consent forms, nothing unusual. But there was one more form tucked at the bottom of the pile. Please review carefully. This waiver allows us to perform necessary procedures during your treatment and includes your consent for any additional tests or interventions deemed necessary for scientific research. I glanced at it briefly. My heart fluttered nervously. I wasn't entirely sure what this meant, but it was just a form, right? No big deal. The word research caught my attention, but in my mind, I reasoned that they might want to test something new or track the results of treatment. It sounded like the cutting-edge stuff I'd heard about. Exciting, even. I signed. What choice did I have? The procedure was scheduled for the next day. Dr. Roscoe was kind, almost charming. He made me feel comfortable, explaining everything as if I was the only patient he had. You'll feel some discomfort, but this is a routine procedure, he assured me, his smile soft and reassuring. You're in good hands. I was led to an operating room where a nurse prepared me. She was a sweet woman, but her hand shook just slightly as she hooked up the floor. I didn't think much of it. The anesthesia was administered, and before I knew it, I was drifting off into unconsciousness. When I woke up, something was wrong. I was disoriented, my body aching, but I couldn't move. My limbs felt heavy, like they were encased in concrete. Panic set in as I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I could feel every inch of my skin burning, as if the room itself was on fire. But I couldn't do anything. My eyes darted around the room, but everything was blurry. Then, as my vision cleared, I saw him. Dr. Roscoe stood by a table, scribbling something in a notebook, a satisfied look on his face. He didn't see me. He didn't even notice I was awake. Another success, he muttered to himself. Procedure went exactly as expected. Now, to prepare for the next phase. I didn't understand. What procedure? What was happening to me? I tried to scream, but nothing. The numbness in my limbs persisted, my body frozen as if I were still under the influence of the drugs. But in my mind, I was awake, completely aware, and I was in hell. Days passed, or maybe it was weeks. I couldn't keep track of time. Each day blurred into the next. Pain was unbearable, worse than any procedure I'd ever endured. Every inch of my body felt like it was being torn apart, stretched, mutated. I could hear Dr. Roscoe's voice echoing in the halls as he worked. I overheard snippets of conversations, fragments of twisted plans he discussed with other colleagues I never saw. It was as if I was being used as some kind of experiment. His voice echoed again, cold and calculating. If we can get this right, we'll be able to synthesize a new serum, something that can override the human genome. Imagine the possibilities. True immortality. But it will require a perfect specimen. He was talking about me. And then, for the first time, I realized he wasn't just performing a routine procedure. He was torturing me and every other patient who had signed that waiver. I wasn't the first, and I wasn't going to be the last. I tried to move, but it was as if my body wasn't my own anymore. The more I struggled, the more I could feel the experiment altering me, twisting me. The lines between human and thing blurring. The agony was unbearable. The only thing that saved me was a nurse named Emily. Had been kind to me at the start, always checking in, trying to keep my spirits up. But over time, I noticed she was becoming more and more disturbed by what she was seeing. I saw her pull away when Dr. Roscoe wasn't around, whispering to another nurse, her eyes darting nervously toward me. One day, she found me awake. I had barely the strength to look at her, but she saw the look in my eyes. She saw the pain. I'm so sorry, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't know what he was doing. I thought it was all for the research, for the patients. Her face twisted in horror as she realized what had happened to me. I could tell from her expression that she knew I wasn't the only one. Emily hurried out of the room, and I heard her talking to someone in a panic. I could barely hear the words, but I knew she was reporting everything: the surgeries, the mutilations, the waivers, the patients. Soon after, there was a loud commotion. I heard shouting, footsteps running down the halls, and then Dr. Roscoe's voice, this time panicked and frantic. Police had arrived. By the time I was able to move again, they had taken Dr. Roscoe away in handcuffs. His clinic was shut down. The police found the other victims, their bodies mutilated and mutated beyond recognition, all left in the wake of Roscoe's sick experiments. I was lucky to have survived, lucky that Emily had found me in time. But the nightmares, the horrors I endured, those will never leave me. Every night, I still feel the drugs coursing through my veins, the agony of my changing body, the terror of what Roscoe did in the name of science. And now, I wonder how many others are out there, people who signed their waivers, thinking they were getting treatment, never realizing that they were being sacrificed for a madman's twisted research. There are so many out there still. I have no doubt that somewhere another doctor is doing the same thing. But now, I know better than anyone the real danger isn't just the monsters we see. It's the ones who hide behind the masks of authority.